I'm Elan Sandler, and I'm a junior at Douglas Anderson School of the Arts and a new alumni of Youth Leadership Jacksonville. Max Dupree once said, "The first responsibility of a leader is to define reality. The last is to say thank you, and between the leader is a servant." Mrs. Nina Waters is a living example of this quote. As president of the Community Foundation for Northeast Florida, Ms. Waters works hard to understand the realities of our community so the many philanthropists she works with can be assured their resources are accurately directed to real need. Ms. Waters is especially proud of the Community Foundation's establishment of funds for the arts, the new LGBT community fund for the Northeast Florida, the Quality Education for All initiative, and working towards the empowerment of women through the generosity of the Women's Given Alliance. Before joining the Community Foundation, Ms. Waters led the PACE Center for Girls for 12 years. At PACE, she spent time helping young women who were labeled at-risk youth. Ms. Waters told me a story about the time in her life where she was spending a good deal of time at the PACE Center. She began to get involved with Youth Leadership Jacksonville and noticed a difference in the YLJ students and those who were labeled at risk. The students in YLJ had extracurricular outlets and thrived because of them. Those in the PACE program lacked these after-school activities, and Ms. Waters worked to create new opportunities at PACE. Ms. Waters explained that through programs like YLJ, students thrive, and it is one of the many reasons she developed such a love for the Leadership Jacksonville organization. As Max Dupree's quote states, "The last aspect of a leader is to say thank you." Mrs. Waters is thank you for many who have been a positive influence in her life. She thanks Mildred Thompson, a quiet, graceful leader that founded Dandy Foods, but many did not see her as a leader. Ms. Waters did and emulates her graceful leadership. She admired Eleanor Ashby's ability to connect and build leaders. Philanthropic leaders Bob Shercliffe, Jim Winston, and Dolores Barr-Reaver are role models too. She is also very thankful for her family and the great character-building opportunities of her youth. Her grandparents ran a grocery store that catered to a well-to-do clientele in a town outside her native Pittsburgh. She loved working there and learning how to work hard and listen and serve. Because her grandparents had no formal education, it was very important to her that their grandchildren went to college. As a young child, Miss Waters knew that she was going to college. She and all of the other grandchildren made their grandparents' dream come true. As every grandchild did complete their college education, this makes her efforts with the Quality Education for All especially meaningful. Her grandmother also taught her to cook traditional Italian cuisine. She, in turn, taught her son Alex. Even though Alex is grown and living in Atlanta, they still bond through cooking. Together, they are learning ways to make the traditional dishes healthier through their favorite chef, Rocco DeSpirito's cookbooks. I spent a little over an hour with Mrs. Waters, interviewing her and finding out who she is. I learned that Mr. and Mrs. Waters love kayaking at Little Talbot Island. I learned that she is a Jacksonville University Dolphin and a leader in organizations such as the Jacksonville Civic Council and the National Center for Family Philanthropy and the Uptown Civitan Club, and is unbeatable when it comes to hula hoop championships. Most importantly, I learned how important education is. She said, "Education is the civil rights issue of our time." And she has gone above and beyond when it comes to educating the next generation. And for this, I personally thank you. Ms. Waters, you have done amazing things in your time. You have changed so many people's lives. Tonight, let us at Leadership Jacksonville thank you for all that you have done for our great city. Please join me to congratulate Mrs. Waters on the receipt of this honor.
Well, that's a hard act to follow, and it got quiet, which is not a good thing. I was hoping we'd still all keep talking. So first I want to thank Leadership Jacksonville. It's such an honor to have all of you take time out of your schedules to come and support this incredibly important organization in our community. I also want to congratulate Jerry Malott. I think one of the best things about having this happen tonight and happen with him is that I didn't know him very well. And I think we've really gotten to know each other. And what a great, great person to be honored with. So it's been terrific. There's so many people here tonight that I want to thank. And I have been given less than 5 minutes. So I cannot call out their names. But I hope that in my remarks tonight that all of you that are here tonight that are so incredibly special to me will hear my love and my thanks for all that you do. The proceeds of this evening event will go to support Youth Leadership Jacksonville, and several of the students are here this evening. And so I decided that instead of addressing my peers, I would address the 17, 18, 19, and 20-year-olds that are in the audience. And the rest of you, you're just not too old to learn, so you might pick up a few things as well. I participated in my first TEDx salon, and again, that's for the 17, 18, and 19-year-olds because the rest of you probably don't know what that is. But I participated in that a few weeks ago at Jacksonville University. And the topic was aging, everyone's doing it. And while I was sitting there, looking out on the green space at Jacksonville University, I realized that this year marks the 40th anniversary of me moving to Jacksonville. And after I got over the fact that it was 40 years ago, I really thought a lot about what did that mean for me. I made the decision by myself to move to Jacksonville and leave an incredibly loving and protective Italian family in Pittsburgh. And I decided to come to JU. And what I realized in having participated in this and thinking back on that time in my life, I realized that I was coming to Jacksonville because I was searching for happiness. The TEDx panel began with a TED Talk video presented from a few years ago, and it was on the Harvard Grant Study. It's a 75-year longitudinal study, the longest longitudinal study ever, on what factors contribute most strongly to human flourishing. Remember, this is Harvard 75 years ago, human flourishing, which is actually, to those of us that are a little simpler, that's actually happiness. So it followed 724 men in total, because I guess 75 years ago you couldn't follow women. Half of them were male undergraduate students from Harvard, and there was an equal number of males that came, of the same age, that came from a challenged neighborhood in a nearby community. And their future was not predicted to be as bright. And since I have 2 minutes left, I'm going to shoot to the end of the study and tell you what the key things that were learned. The most important finding of this study, 75 years later, is that happiness is love. And for those of you that don't read fiction and read nonfiction, you can read all about this in the book Triumphs of Experience if you'd like to read more. So happiness is love. The happiest and healthiest people were not necessarily those who became rich with money or with fame. It was those that were rich with good relationships. And the finding was true for both sets of young men. It isn't the number of relationships that you have, they said. It is the quality of those close relationships that matter the most. Because people need people that they can count on. The presenter went on to say that good relationships protect our body and our brains, and for those of you that are my age and older, it also helps to have because our memories will actually stay sharper longer if you have good relationships. Being in unhealthy and unhappy relationships has completely the opposite effect. So think about that. So what does this mean for you rising seniors? You will be faced with so many choices in the coming years. You'll decide about your education, your career, your friends, your lovers. The results of this study indicate that the choices you make about the relationships you build will critically influence your degree of long-term happiness. Some people go through life thinking it's up to others to make them happy. I believe that universities and workplaces and those people that you'd call your friends and associates, we can create the conditions needed for people to be happy, but we don't have the power to make you happy. That part is really up to you. I came to Jacksonville at the age of 17, about the same age as those Youth Leadership Jacksonville students are now. Choosing a university was really the first time that I was able to make a true choice about my future. And my godfather was the person in my life then that really helped me to find the courage to make that decision. The choices that followed, including choosing the right friends and finding ways to say no to the wrong friends. And I made a few bad decisions along the way as well, but luckily I did learn from them. And it is the strong relationships with my family, caring advisors and friends and mentors that are there for me when I am both stumbling and thriving that make a difference. Many more decisions followed in my life after that time of graduating from JU, and the most important decision I will ever make is saying yes when my husband asked me to marry him 36 years ago. Choosing the right person to hopefully spend the rest of your life with was the key to happiness. And remember what I said earlier, happiness depends on how satisfied we are in our relationships. We need to feel that we can count on each other. And those people in the study that were in unhappy relationships actually fared much more poorly than those people that got out of unhappy relationships and found happiness. Then came motherhood and the lifetime of choices that come along with that. And realizing that when you say to your child, make good choices, and they roll their eyes at you, that what you're really saying is, I want you to be happy always. And I want the choices you make to be careful choices, because they will significantly enhance or derail your chance of being happy now or being happy possibly forever. And finally, work. I spend a lot of time working, and I have been blessed with incredible teams at PACE and at the Community Foundation to work with. And those of us who work full-time actually spend more waking hours with people we work with than people that are in our family. So choosing the right job is so much more than the name of the company on the letterhead and the compensation package that you're going to receive. It is the people that you work with and you work for. It is the culture of the organization matching your own. It is their willingness and their ability to provide the environment for you to be happy. But remember, you have to make yourself happy. And finally, finding happiness is not as much about how you spend your time off, but who you spend your time off with. I learned something recently on Facebook, and I know that you 17-year-olds are already on to something else, Instagram or snapping or something that you do, but I'm still on Facebook. And so I realized by talking to my niece that I can actually unfollow people, because I didn't want to unfriend people that I disagreed with or that I didn't really want to read their stuff. So they explained you can unfollow people. And I was thinking, how cool would that be if you could actually unfollow people in real life too? And so what I'm telling you is you can. It's a choice that you make. You choose who you associate with, you choose who you listen to, you choose who you emulate, and choose those people wisely, because all of that will lead to happiness. Over the past 40 years in Jacksonville, I've expanded my family with an amazing group of true and dear friends, people I trust and I count on. And I'm thankful that we have chosen each other. My wish for each of you this evening is that you are equally blessed with a lifetime of loving and caring relationships that lead to a very long life and a terrifically happy one. Thank you.